It's time once again for That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly. That Business Show gives a voice to Tampa Bay's entrepreneurial community and highlights our community leaders, aiming to inspire and educate our listeners. Become a part of the entrepreneurial movement today by becoming a member of the Tampa Bay Business Owners and get your brand on air today. Visit tampabayradio.com for more information. All shows available on demand. Now, here are your hosts, Jamie and Kelly.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly, where business becomes show business. In studio with Kelly Wilson, owner of the Edge Business Community and Edge Business Magazines. Kelly, good morning to you.
Good morning. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. Did you get rested yesterday? You still in your little giddy, laughable mood because you're so tired?
You know what? It better be giddy and laughing when you're tired than to be mean and I was going to say that word. I don't think I can say that on the radio.
Yes.
Yeah, so at least I'm giddy when I'm tired,
well,
right?
That's good. I mean, you've had time to adjust to the schedule. You've been on the air 2 months now. Still not a morning person. Well, maybe our guest today can shed a little bit of light on that. Joe Fedison's in studio with us today.
We can talk about some brain, brain thought
chemistry,
processes,
brain science. I don't know if he knows the answer to that one, but we're going to talk about brain science and brain chemistry and how it relates to decision making and all that fun stuff. So Joe Fedison's in studio with us today.
I was just going to say, how's your week so far? How are you? Are you recovering from the holidays? You ready for the new year?
Yeah. I'm all focused and everything. Like I said, I spent the weekend mostly catching up on some things. So it was an uneventful holiday for me, unfortunately, but gave me time to catch up.
So this is week 100, is it not?
Yeah. This is week 100 of the program. Yeah, it doesn't even include the time on the radio spent doing the real estate show either. So
that's quite an accomplishment. Yes,
absolutely. So yes,
congratulations.
Week 100 of That Business Show here, and so thanks to all the listeners for making it possible and supporting the show each and every morning here on 1250 WHNZ. So let's throw it over to Joe. So Joe, good morning to you. How you doing today?
Good morning. I'm doing well.
Good morning.
So
Are
Joe,
you awake,
do you know that
Joe?
answer to the?
You know what? It's so funny as a sitting there. It's like, oh man, you study your stuff, you know what's going on, and all of a sudden someone throws a curveball at you, and you're like,
leave it to us to do that.
Exactly. I'm thinking, why does that work like that? And I'm thinking, do I want to go that way? Of course, I'm asking myself questions. You're throwing a threat response to me right now. I'm like, oh, what do I do?
Yeah, so if you are not a morning person and you are in your 40s, will you ever adapt to being a morning person?
I have to tell you, being studying neuroscience and studying that, I do not want to make that answer because I do not have the, my thing is, listen, I'm going to give you information. I want to give you something that's right and something you can use. So I'm sure there is an answer to that. Yeah. I know one thing, listen, whatever part you are, however you are a certain way, it could change at any time.
Yeah, anything is possible.
I know that
right?
it's anything.
That was in the Christmas movie I watched the other day.
Your brain, it's called neuroplasticity, which means that your brain can change whatever it is you do and however it is you do it. Your neurons, you can grow and learn anything and change anything at any time. No one is set in their ways, and they've proven that a long time ago.
Yeah.
Now we're going to share 6 tips for making decisions with you throughout this segment, but we're also going to learn a lot of interesting brain science with regard to decision making. Joe, you were teaching a class on optimum time management. You were sharing with us a graph that was showing, the decision point or the point in the day at which a decision is made can directly influence the result of that decision. And you're showing a graph of judges with regard to parole decisions or whatnot. And earlier in the day, the decision was made, the more favorable the outcome was for the offender. The later in the day, the ruling was not as favorable to the offenders. Why is that? What's going on here?
Right. And there's actually several things. And it's not just early. Early in the morning is the best time.
Because they're morning people.
and it's not so much that, but you know what? As you think about it, is that you're sleeping, you're resting. When you're down, you're resting. Your body's rebuilding, it's taking care of itself. It's cleaning out toxins in your brain and everything like that. But when you get up and you start going, you start making decisions. And believe it or not, thousands of years ago, when the world was not as complicated and everything you saw was pretty much what you saw yesterday, your brain wasn't as taxed as it is now. But now there's so much information coming in, your brain's making multiple decisions, and it's using oxygen, blood-rich, oxygen.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on, and you actually make so many decisions, you outdo what you produce. And you can actually get to a point where you have decision fatigue, and you're like, I don't want to do it.
Yeah. I think I have felt that before. Absolutely.
That's a real thing. That is a real thing. And they've graphed it, and they did it with the judges. So what happens is in the morning, People come in early, get, parole. And as it goes on, right before lunch, I don't care who you are, you've been there 50 years and you're perfect attendant, perfect guy. They're like, no. Then they eat and it replenishes it. But each time, they go ahead and again, it drops off, and then they eat again and replenishes it. But each time it's less and less and less. So if you want to go, and how does this correlate to business or your life or anything? If you want to go make a deal, if you want to influence someone, if you got a big sale going on, well, you want to talk to them. You want to, relay your information to them when they're most favorable in their own brain to give you an answer because they feel good. Here's what it is, too. This whole thing, people have been doing business lunches for a long time. And I was talking to my fiance and her daughter yesterday about this, about when even if you're deplenished, even after you've lost your glucose in your blood, once you eat, it builds it back up, right? So her daughter goes, oh, is that why taking a girl out for dinner, works? And I was like, I wasn't thinking of it that way. I guess so. Exactly. Is that, after the dinner, you're feeling better. You're more likely to say yes to something after you eat than you would if you're hungry.
That's very interesting, and there's some great tips we're going to learn throughout this segment. One of them, it's very important, and when making decisions is make sure that you're making a decision that is important and valuable to you. Joe, if you want to elaborate on a little bit of this and the science behind what goes into the decision making process.
Well, where I really focus on and try to show people, my mantra is very simple. It's better to work with your brain than against it. Okay, our brain has one actual objective. It really does. It's designed for survival. That is it. It's grown. It's produced. All these programs are for survival. All the other stuff, comes in secondary. And there's two things it does for the survival, which affect pretty much all our decisions, everything we do all the time. One is that it's always looking out to be, for threats. If it feels threatened at any time, your decision-making process changes. That's number one, because that's how we stayed alive for millions of years, or whatever you think it is, right? We were great at avoiding threats. That's why we're here. Now, number two is, in order to survive, it needs to store energy. And back in the day, when you maybe didn't eat that day, it needed to save its energy. So your brain saves energy all the time, and it doesn't want you to think too hard.
Decision making is the equivalent of working out in the gym in terms of decision making. So if you're using a lot of
our brain's working out,
if you're making a lot of decisions and you're going to go home, we all know what it's like to be mentally tired, but we don't necessarily equate that to physical tired. Like in the gym.
Yeah. Well, they're different, but you can be more mentally drained than you could be physically. Like just by working all day and thinking, and if you're really working on plans and strategic type things, you're more exhausted at the end of the day than you would be had you ran a few miles.
I agree completely. And the fact is that your brain uses 20% of your body's energy. And the frontal part, the prefrontal, where you actually do the thinking, the cognitive thinking, the planning, and figuring things out and knowing what's going on and creative thought and all kinds of things like that, that uses the most. And since it uses the most and your brain tries to conserve energy, it wants to use it the least. What it means is that when you start doing something, here's the proof of it.
It's no, don't use me yet. I need to be saved.
So it goes ahead and does things. Like when you go to learn how to ride a bike, it's all up front here. Oh, how do I paddle? Do all this stuff. Once you figure it out, your brain takes that programming and tosses it to the back. You don't have to know. You don't have to think about riding a bike.
So we're not using as much mental frequency at that point.
Right, exactly. Problem is that when you're asked a question all the time, or someone asks you something, it doesn't want to send it up to your front where you can think about it. It sends it to the back, tries to find an answer for this simple question, and sends it out. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. Studies shown that you're about 70% right on that track, and that's not good, in my opinion. So there's ways to stop that. There's ways to go ahead and, give yourself a little bit of time. And when I say a little bit of time, all it takes is 1 second.
And you eventually hit decision fatigue throughout the day, where you've made so many decisions in a day where you don't want to make any more. You don't necessarily know that's why you don't want to make any more decisions. But if you've made so many throughout the day,
you're probably not making very good ones.
You start to shut down, as you were showing in this graph, the results of the judges, the pardons, or not the pardons, but on the offenders there and the paroles. There you go. We're not as favorable later in the day.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just that. In board meetings, they've done a study in board meetings and stuff like that. If you're going to go ahead and talk to a big company and try to give a proposal in the afternoon around 3 o'clock versus 10 o'clock in the morning, the statistics show you are not. What they do at 3 o'clock is they don't want to make a decision. They're going, you know what, let us think about it, and we'll get back to you. Whereas at 10 o'clock in the morning, it's like, you know what, that sounds good. And this is just something, if you're in business, remember this. Go ahead and do this. And that's just one of those areas in that.
Yeah,
So-
and like with anything, if you're too tired, your decision making will be not based on where it would be if you were in fresh mind. So you don't need to make any serious decision making later in the day.
So be mindful of the time of day that you're scheduling some important meetings, and a takeaway from that discussion is schedule a meeting early in the morning, especially if you're looking to get paroled from jail.
I don't think they have any say so when they get a meeting. Or
No, I think that's going to be just up to luck of the draw. Another good tip for decision making is don't lose focus of your future. Joe, a little bit ago you mentioned the fight or flight response that our body has developed, the survival technique, and you talked about in your discussion last time the amygdala and its role in the decision making, and I believe that was the newer part of the brain, right, that has come along in
It's
during
the midbrain.
evolution.
It's in the midbrain. It's part of what's called a limbic system, emotional. It's when we started, grouping as a.
Talk about this because I found this interesting and how this works and everything. Because
I'll go off a little bit real quickly. All it is that it's the brain developed as hind, midbrain, forebrain, whatever cortex. But the midbrain is where emotions and stuff like that. And it's believed that as we became a community of people, we lived in groups. It was important for us. Our survival is based on the group. I can't grow my own food and go attack people and go build houses all the time. We live as a group.
So it's always been about collaboration.
And actually, it grew into that, yeah. And that's where the emotional system came in. Now, there was an excellent article just came out. It talked about women who are getting ready to have a baby and everything like that. And there's a part of their brain that grows tremendously, and it has to do with empathy and bonding with the baby. And
Where those motherly instincts where they kick in.
Yes, and that's how your brain works anyway. So, and what I'm just trying to point out is that our brains developed for what it is we needed, and so the amygdala and all that kind of stuff just developed because I have to deal with you, and I have to deal with you, and you have to deal with me, and I have to recognize what you're doing, and our systems recognize it all the time. Yeah, and they do. I mean, the brain's all into that. But
it had to do with the threat response, because when somebody disagrees with you,
yes,
the old fight or flight response kicks in. Like, oh, this is a threat to me. Now I'm going to react, defensively. The amygdala came along, which is supposed to be like the reasoning center or something.
Right. Actually, the amygdala is actually where your anxiety and fears and aggression is, and it's also where the male sex drive goes through, not the female. The male. That might explain a lot of things. But but it's where aggression and everything is, and that's what it is. And actually, what the amygdala does, it's just watching for you. What's going on is that your sight vision brings in 80% of your world comes in. You see everything. We judge our world by that. About 10% of that goes through your amygdala and gets scanned, and that's what's happening right now. It's scanning the world around you. If something happened, like right now, I just saw someone walk past the window there. I wasn't focused on it, my amygdala picked it up. And what it's looking for is moving things. It's out there always watching for you. And if it sees something that it thinks is fearful, it can take over your brain and your actions, make you move without you, and then tell you. Now, how's that relate in business, though? Right? Because that's what we're here for. I mean, great, sounds good, but yeah, I want to make some money. I want to move my business forward. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Listen, I'm having a situation right now I have to deal with today. I'm not going to go into it, but it's pretty serious to deal with my son, and someone my opinion, took advantage of him financially and everything. So, and I'm about to deal with one of the top guys in this company. And I know that if I come across in a way that is threatening or attacking, I'm going to shut that person down, and they won't be able to think clearly. And I need to discuss this with them. I need them to realize what's going on. I need them to think. So I can't get them in a threat response. And since I'm the one who wants to influence the situation, it's up to me. It's up to you. When you're out there talking to people, you got to know how you're affecting them. And if you think you're going to go tell your employee, "Oh, get to work and go give me that project now, you stupid idiot," yeah, they're going to go back to their desk, sit there, and go blah 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 blah, because they can't, not because they don't want to. The brain is shut down. That's what happens when you go into threat response. It shuts down your prefrontal cortex. And I'll give you a quick reason
why.
So
you just took away any productivity.
Hold that tip there.
They might have produced.
We'll give the reason why when we come back from the break. Currently talking to Joe Fedison, a trainer with Engaged Action Training, and learn more at that website, engagedactiontraining.com, and available for lunch and learns on decision making and optimum time management. So give him a call if you can use his services, 813-451-3637. Again, 813-451-3637. You're listening to That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly, where business becomes show business.
How many times have you said to yourself, I wish there was an app for that? Stop wishing and start making the world better. Turn your brilliant idea into a profitable business by using Popcorn apps. Their affordable app design will help get your blue sky idea or proven business to the next level at a fraction of the cost of other developers. They will help you get through all the steps needed to make your thoughts become live. See them at popcornapps.com with a K in popcorn, or call them at 727-415-6705 for your free consultation and pop your kernel of an idea into $1 million business and a world changer starting today.
Teresa Turner is a certified public accountant and the founder of Tax Happens, a boutique-style CPA firm providing small businesses and individuals with hands-on, personalized tax and accounting services. Although we would love to tell you how happy their clients are, we would like you to see for yourself. Tax Happens has 21 Google reviews and a 4.8-star Google rating, 17 Yelp reviews and a 5-star Yelp rating, 38 Facebook reviews and a 4.9-star Facebook rating. What sets Tax Happens apart is number 1, upfront pricing, 2, clear deadlines, 3, personally available year-round, and number 4, a willingness to empower clients to do as much or as little as they desire. Visit taxhappens.com for more information.
Have you ever tried to buy a home for your family only to find out that you don't qualify for a mortgage loan? You thought that after 20 years as a customer of your bank, they would help you when you needed it the most, right? Unfortunately, the banks of today are not the banks of our parents and grandparents, and our relationships with them just don't matter anymore. My name is Frank Cotto, and I'm the president of the Lincoln Lending Group. We all may need a bank, but we also need a Frank. And that's what I'm here to do for you today. Lincoln Lending Group will waive all of your lending fees, which include your mortgage, application fee, your underwriting fee, processing fees, and any bank points. Just call 813-MORTGAGE. You drop the E, and we'll drop the fee.
In an age when the good and the better vie for attention, it is the best that stands out. The best of Tampa Bay from Proudly Florida is the love story for the city of Tampa, celebrating success, sharing achievements, a tribute to enterprise and community spirit. Let Proudly Florida showcase your business to your city, your nation, and the world. For more information, email info@proudlyflorida.com and be sure to visit proudlyflorida.com.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. With one phone call, you'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information. It's a free service, so call now.
Call now, 800-908-0586, 800-908-0586.
My bad back loves my Craftmatic.
My bad back loves my Craftmatic bed.
My bad back loves my Craftmatic adjustable bed.
These aren't actors. They're real people who sleep better every night thanks to their Craftmatic adjustable bed. Just call 800-413-7506. That's 800-413-7506 for prices and free information on today's Craftmatic adjustable beds. Amaze yourself and see how little they cost. Rated #1 nationwide on ConsumerAffairs.com. Craftmatic beds come in all mattress types, including cool gel memory foam for up to 50% less than today's leading memory foam brand. So if you've ever had a bad night's sleep, wake up sore, stiff, with back, neck, or shoulder pain, call for prices and free information on today's Craftmatic adjustable beds. Amaze yourself. See how little they cost. Call 800-413-7506. That's 800-413-7506. 800-413-7506. Call now.
Crash in Pinellas County on southbound Starkey Road south of Almerton has a couple lanes blocked, and also in Hillsborough County southbound Dale Mabry shut down at Columbus. This is all due to a crash near Spruce Street. You'll have to use Himes, Lois, or from points farther north considered a Veterans Expressway instead. See traffic problems? Call the injury firm of Abrahamson Uterick Hillsborough. Traffic tip line 866-545-9595.
This report is brought to you by McDonald's. Pick your way to a perfect morning with McDonald's new McPick 2 at breakfast. Choose any two, like a savory sausage McMuffin, sausage biscuit, or a delicious sausage burrito for just $2. Pick your way to a great day, only at McDonald's for a limited time.
Patchy dense fog mainly north of Tampa. Becoming partly cloudy. High 80. Partly cloudy overnight with more fog expected. Low 65. A 10% rain chance tomorrow. High 78.
You're listening to That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly on 1250 Winds WHNZ. Missed the show? Then head over to TampaBayRadio.com, where all shows are available on demand. Once again, here are your hosts, Jamie and Kelly.
And we're back to That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly, where business becomes show business. Talking to Joe Fedison, owner of Engaged Action Training. Learn more at that website, engagedactiontraining.com. And Joe, you're talking about you've got a situation that you're dealing with today, and it's important not to invoke the fear or the threat response when you're confronting somebody. Elaborate more on what you're going with this.
Or anything like that, because like I said, the bottom line is I want them to be able to think clearly. Because if someone's right, and I believe I'm right on this side, and and the other person's thinking about it, it's hard for them to say, "Oh, you're right, but I'm still going to do wrong." It's very hard for someone to do that, but they could only do that when they're not thinking straight. And what I was going to say was that your amygdala, whenever it's in that response, it actually sends a signal up to your prefrontal cortex to shrink that area down and limit your ability to use it. And what I think's happening, the reason is back in the day when you were being chased by a lion or tiger and stuff like that, you see something come out of the woods, it doesn't want your prefrontal going, I wonder what's in those woods. It's like one of those horror shows, right? Should I go inside the door? Should I go in? All this thinking
run.
you're doing. So the amygdala's like, yeah, shut up. I've been doing this forever. I don't need you messing it up. And it shuts it down. But it works both ways. Whenever you're in that amygdala hijack, you can actually release it by energizing your prefrontal cortex, by lighting that up, by doing something that gets you to think. That will send a signal back down to your amygdala and stop it.
That demonstrates one of the tips I wanted to raise is, give yourself time to sit and contemplate. It's important to remove emotion from the decision making sometimes. And that's, I think, what you're doing right there is you're thinking about this versus, if your son had come to you and say, oh, Dad, I've been taken advantage of, and you picked up the phone right then there and called the person, it would have been a terrible outcome.
Yeah, oh, my God, you are so right, because that's how I used to act. Yeah, I used to act quickly, and as a matter of fact, I wrote a huge letter, a huge thing.
And you're from New Jersey too, so we got to forgive
That's
you.
how we roll, man. That's how we
conditioned to
roll.
act that way.
Listen, you wronged me, I'm wronging you. And then a few minutes later, like, why'd you do that? But yes, if you could the longer you could take to think something out, your brain knows what to do. You just don't. You don't give it time to get the right answer. That's all.
Well, they always say it's not about what you go through; it's about how you react to what you go through. Right? It's all about your reaction.
That's a quote I use,
right.
and stuff like that.
I don't think I said exactly right, but it's something along those lines.
It also demonstrates another great tip. Have you looked at all the alternatives and considered the different scenarios? And so you have obviously put a lot of thought into this. You know that you're going to talk to this individual today, and you have probably envisioned all the different outcomes now.
Here's how you do that as a business person. Okay, all you got to do is you got to think of where you're at and what it is you want. You're getting ready to meet someone. Why don't you ask yourself a question beforehand? You say, what is it that I want to get out of this, meeting? Where is it that I want to be? And then start answering it first. Give your brain a chance to answer it, think about it, and you'll be surprised. You're like, oh. And then ask the second question, how can I accomplish that? Write those down. I'll guarantee those two little questions change your life.
Good points. And the final tips for decision making, don't forget to use your intuition and realize how important is this decision and are you willing to work on it. So good points from Joe Fedison today, talking about some of the brain chemistry and science behind the decision making. And remember to schedule those meetings earlier to get those better outcomes and stuff. So Joe, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
And again, this makes a
Happy New Year.
Makes a good
Happy
lunch
New
and
Year.
learns and team building events. Give them a call for Engaged Action Training, 813-451-3637, 813-451-3637. He can really go into depth on this topic, engagedactiontraining.com. You've been listening to That Business Show, Jamie and Kelly, where business becomes show business.
I feel guilty that I can't always be there when Mom feels stuck at home. She was always there for us. But now she can't get out, and I'm not always available to take her places. Someone else needs to help her get around. Then I learned about Home Instead. Now Mom can do what she enjoys because her personal caregiver is there, and I can just be a daughter again.
Are you struggling to care for your loved one? We can help. Home Instead Senior Care. To us, it's personal.
Hi, welcome to Yeager's. We just want to take a minute and show you what we're all about. At Yeager's, our primary business is hardwood flooring, although we are remodelers for kitchen, bath, and general construction. We operate a fleet of shop-at-home vans that have all the flooring type products, hardwood flooring, laminate flooring, tiles, stone, what have you. So we're able to come out first with products in our vehicles and take a look at the setting, how the colors will work, and then to be able to come up with some options and ideas for you. If that's not good enough, we have a large distribution center that we inventory product and have a nice display area.
You're listening to That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly on 1250 Wins WHNZ. Missed the show? Then head over to TampaBayRadio.com, where all shows are available on demand. Once again, here are your hosts, Jamie and Kelly.
And welcome to That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly, where business becomes show business. Learn more about this program over at TampaBayRadio.com. And keep in mind, I sell real estate with Coldwell Banker. That is my day job. So if I could help you buying or selling real estate, we set up a couple of websites that makes it easier for you to get in touch with me. If you're looking to sell your home in the Tampa Bay region or really across the nation, I can partner you up with an agent in our network. Visit thathomevaluation.com, thathomevaluation.com. And if you're looking to buy a home in the area, you can use thathomesearch.com. So a couple easy landing page sites to get you some more information and get you directly in contact with me again. Thathomevaluation.com for a free home valuation, or That Home Search if you're looking to buy a home in the Tampa Bay region. Next guest for the program, John Masolio. He is the founder and principal of Brass Ring Financial Solutions. You can learn more about this at that website, brassringfinancialsolutions.com. John, welcome into the program this morning.
Well, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, Jamie.
And we're going to be talking about understanding the real impact of a long-term care event. And so the obvious first question is, what defines or what is a long-term care event?
Good question. Well, that can be defined two ways. Number one is a accident or an illness, and that is prevents you from doing the activities of daily living, 2 of the 6 ADLs, as they call it. And it would be bathing, eating, dressing, going to the restroom.
I guess all these things that, a younger person isn't going to think of, but as you age, these become more of a frequent or more of a concern in everyday life.
Absolutely. And then the other part of the puzzle is also dementia, Alzheimer's. I have a client who's early 50s, and she has early onset dementia. And it's going to take its toll quickly.
Okay, so how do your services in at Brass Ring Financial Solutions, how does this all interweave together with this type of an events?
What we try to do is sit down with the individual and give them some ideas and look at their total planning process as to what they can expect from the products that are available. Are they self-insured, which most people are? 94% of the people in this country do not have any plan in place. So they're going to wind up depending on the government or dwindling down their own assets.
Okay, so your services are not, it's not just like insurance sales necessarily. This is planning, solutions, taking your assets, getting a plan ahead of the situation. Am I correct in that?
That is correct.
Okay.
Because if now you're sick and you need a walker or a cane to get around with, nobody's going to take you.
Right. So the idea is to contact you to have this plan put into place. First, your niche client or age. When does somebody get in touch with you? Because this is not something people generally start to think about until probably 50 or so, I would imagine.
Yeah, typically, yeah. That's the prime age to start looking at it, 40s to 50s. And actually, it's becoming more prevalent, you'll see, in the business setting. For example, there are some businesses that offer voluntary benefits, but they can actually have purchased on their own for themselves or their family their in-laws, their parents, that same type of product and do it on payroll deduction if they allow them to do that.
Now we're talking about understanding the impact of a long-term care event and the importance of planning here with John Masolio, founder and principal of Brass Ring Financial Solutions. So John, what are the odds of having, a long-term care event then right now?
Well, if you're 65 and above, you're looking at 3 out of 4 people are going to need some type of care for a long-term event in their lifetime.
Interesting. And so you're talking earlier about dementia and Alzheimer's, and I know we've covered that a number of times on the program with Christy Campbell, who does in-home care for seniors in the Tampa Bay region, and it's definitely a growing problem, across our communities. And so what are the national average costs for nursing home care and home health care?
Good question. Just to have somebody come into your home, a home health care aide, for example, the average is about $20, $21 a day per hour. So if you take that per hour, you're talking $150, $160 per day. Now you move that up and you go into a
nursing facility, right?
Right. You have the adult living or assisted living facilities. You're looking at $42,000 a year on the average. Now, if you're living up north, say in Boston or New York or something, you're talking much higher. A semi-private room and board in a nursing home itself.
How are nursing homes covered in terms of insurance? Is that part of a typical insurance plan or health insurance plan that somebody would have, or is that something they've got to plan for separately altogether?
It's not covered.
Not covered at all?
No.
Is there an insurance plan that they can buy that covers that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What is that called? What is that?
Well, it started off originally as long-term care insurance, and it covered those activities that would be needed for home health care, assisted living, and your nursing home care. Now it's expanded into adult daycare, and actually using a combination, or very popular now, is what they call a hybrid life insurance long-term care product. Because a lot of people will say, Jamie, that's a waste of money, and if you don't use it, it's like car insurance. It's money down the sewer. Well, that's true, but we all have car insurance.
Right.
Well, the state says we have to, but still we have to have it. But the truth of the matter is we're all going to die. So life insurance is needed. But the new products allow you to use or tap into that death benefit. For example, you could have 2% every month used for nursing home care or home health care. So for example, $100,000 policy, you can have $2,000 a month taken away from the death benefit you use the long-term care benefits.
Now we're moving into a time in our culture where we're getting a lot of retirees from the baby boomer generation. Mm-hmm. I imagine your business is booming right now in that sense. What are you seeing out there in the marketplace with regard to the clients coming to you in long-term care?
Baby boomers absolutely need to look at this from a couple perspectives. Number one is they probably have aging parents. So you look at that, and you probably know somebody in your family, neighborhood. I know I could cite a few examples where you have to take time off work to go help that parent. You also have children you're trying to raise. You're trying to work. People wind up losing probably 7 hours a week on the average, and that's about 30% of your work time in the course of a year, just going back and forth, helping them go to doctor's calls, therapy, things of that nature. So it's really a concern for them, not to mention the effect it has on their home life.
How does Medicare come into play in all of this long-term care events? I mean, Medicare is supposed to, help us when we get old. I mean, how does it come into play here?
Well, very, very little, if I may say so. The Medicare itself, it will cover the first 20 days after you've had a 3-day hospital stay. Then you have to go into a skilled facility, and the maximum is 100 days total. After that, you're on your own. So, example is my own father. Last year, 2 years ago now, he had 3-day hospital stay he thought it was going to be. It winded up 9 operations in 1 month, and he wound up 39 days in Tampa General, another 63 days in a rehab facility. Fortunately, he had a Medicare supplement to help offset those costs. But I'll ask you, what do you think it cost him, the cost would have been for a facility like that to go into per day?
Oh, usually a facility like that, probably $40,000, $50,000 a year or more?
Right. It's pretty accurate, yeah. It would have been $220 a day So you times that by 63 days he spent there, that was over $13,000 that he would have had to pay the nursing facility.
Wow.
Fortunately, between Medicare and the supplement, it was able to offset, and he had little out of pocket. Thankfully, he's back home now.
I'm still trying to get over the 3 out of 4 will need long-term care.
Yes.
Are those the numbers that you said earlier?
Yes.
That because I don't know. I think you're right. It's kind of sad to think, but eventually, yes, we all are. We're all gonna get older, and we all are gonna die at some point.
Now, is long-term care coverage, is it a difficult sell? Because is it an expensive policy to add to your portfolio? Talk to us about the what you hear from the consumers.
Yeah, typically people are going to say it's expensive, and I think that's all relative when you really think about it. Expense.
Either now or later.
Exactly. And the younger you are, the cost, is going to be lower. Plus, even qualifying for the product, they are going to ask you health questions. So if you already need help getting around, say you need a cane or a walker, or you have some other type of chronic illness, you may be declined and not be able to get the coverage. So those are other things you really have to look at for doing so.
Does this build up any type of cash value? You hear about life insurance building up the cash value. Is there any benefits to long-term care coverage? Any hidden benefits that people can benefit from?
The standalone, as we would call it, long-term care, no. It's like, again, car insurance. You pay, use it or lose it type thing. The hybrid policies, you have the death benefit. You can use it for the long-term care event, and most of them will have some sort of cashback feature. So if you said, I'm out of here, guys, cash me out, just like you're in Vegas, cash me out, I'm out of here, give me my money back. Some will have 100% refund, some will have a percentage. You can just walk away from it and say, I want my money. Now, you may say, well, it's costing money to do so. Yes. But in today's times, what do you have? If the money's sitting in a CD, what are you getting on your money?
Less than 1% or something right now, right? Not
right.
too much.
So if you take some of that money, or I refer to it as lazy money, because you're not really using it, and you use that towards something like this, and you can get some money back in the future, why not use that to insulate yourself, to protect yourself, instead of using up all your assets?
So a percentage of our seniors that have this type of a product, is it a small amount of people that are carrying long-term care in their portfolio?
Well, in the United States, only 6% of the population have some sort of actual plan of care in place. So the rest are depending on the government, Medicaid, which you don't want to be on. You got personal assets you would be spending money from, or if you don't have anything anybody in this room is self-insuring.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do people give you the I'm saving up my money, so why do I need to pay for an insurance policy? I mean, do you get that response too often these days, or no? Not to be people say,
Absolutely.
right?
No, I get that a lot. People say, well, I've saved my money. And in certain instances, yes, you really don't need to have that. You even say if they're worth $2-3 million, maybe they don't need to. They can self-insure. But the average person doesn't have that. So in return for that, I'll ask them just very candidly, yes, you've saved money. You have an IRA account or a retirement plan. You have savings, CDs, and then you also maybe have a brokerage account. Which one are you going to tap first to pay for it?
Which one am I going to tap first?
Yeah.
I would go to my savings, I guess.
Okay, and once you've depleted that, what are you going to go to next?
Mom and dad.
But that's the kind of conversations I have with people.
I guess if you're a senior, though, I guess it doesn't really come into play, right?
Yeah, you don't really have the mom and dad. Many don't at that point. Or you're taking care of them.
The other thing, just so you know, is that over 10% of the people who need care are under age 65.
Yeah.
Really?
Because you think about MS, Parkinson's, brain tumors, accidents, motorcycle, car.
Well, now we're running into a situation where people are living longer, and we're going to have to adjust as a society and as a culture to cover this. Because people, I think, when Social Security was originally planning all this, you're supposed to retire and live about like 5 or 6 years or something at that time. And now we're living like 30 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I think it's evening out because we may be living longer, but people are also dying so much younger too with cancer and everything else that strikes everyone. So it's probably balancing everyone out.
Not necessarily. No, I mean the population is increasing, and so we're going to have to deal with this.
It seems like there's so many people dying. I'm even looking at 2016. It's like a morbid year, man. There are just death after death after death. It seems. I'm sure it's probably like that every year. Yeah. Maybe it's just not as prominent.
Well, you had a lot of celebrities this year who were passed on. But an example I can give you, my own grandmother. She had Alzheimer's and 7 years in a nursing facility. and she didn't have a lot. My grandfather passed several years before she did. So all she had when the Alzheimer's got where she could not take care of herself, had to spend any assets she had, sold the home, and then the nursing facility had her sign over her Social Security benefits and the little pension that she did have from my grandfather, and it still wasn't enough to pay for the bill. Fortunately, my father and his brothers and his sister each pitched in a little bit each month so she could stay where she was at. Otherwise, the nursing homes, they really don't care. They're going to tell you you're going to have to move to a Medicaid facility, which may be 50 miles from here, 100 miles from here, because they only have so many beds allotted for that. So you really got to take into account somebody with Alzheimer's, they can go 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And that, when you're talking $40,000 to $50,000 a year, that's a big number.
Yeah, we don't know what's coming. That's what's scary. I guess you can look at your family and your parents, and you can kind of almost try to see like what you might be in store for.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, that's what John is here to help you with, planning ahead of the long-term care event, and he has other services available as well. So reach out to him. Brass Ring Financial Solutions is his company. You can get in touch with him, 813-651-0025. Again, 813-651-0025, or visit brassringfinancialsolutions.com. You're listening to That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly, where business becomes show business.
Are you in need of new flooring or ready to tackle that home remodeling project? Then contact Yeager & Company Incorporated, a family-owned, state-certified general contracting business with a
for a free consultation. That's 888-912-2340. 888-912-2340.
Crash in Pinellas County on southbound Starkey, south of Almerton, right around 126th Avenue. The right lane is blocked here. Also a police investigation on southbound Del Mabry, south of Columbus near Spruce. Has that road shut down again in the southbound direction? You'll have to use Himes, Lois, or even a Veterans Expressway to get around here. See traffic problems? Call the injury firm of Abrahamson, Uterick, Hillsborough. Traffic tip line 866-545-9595.
This report is brought to you by your local Nissan dealer. Hurry in for the final days of Nissan's Go Rogue Year-End event. Save big on the new 2017 Rogue and the rest of the Nissan lineup. Take on any Galaxy and take off in a new Nissan. Shop your local Nissan store and choose Nissan.com today. Offer ends January 3rd.
Patchy dense fog mainly north of Tampa. Becoming partly cloudy. High 80. Partly cloudy overnight with more fog expected. Low 65. A 10% rain chance tomorrow. High 78.
You're listening to That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly on 1250 Winds WHNZ. Missed a show? Then head over to TampaBayRadio.com, where all shows are available on demand. Once again, here are your hosts, Jamie and Kelly.
And we're back to That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly, where business becomes show business. Talking to John Masolio, founder and principal of Brass Ring Financial Solutions. Learn more at brassringfinancialsolutions.com. We're talking about the importance of planning for, long-term care events. And John, one thing people may not take into consideration, though, is the impact on the person's life or business. If your loved one or your father, your mother, you have to care for them. Talk to us about this.
Oh, that's becoming more of a problem in a couple of ways. Number one is, what do you do if you have to work, which most of us do, and yet you've got a parent maybe that's starting to develop Alzheimer's, for example. One in particular I could think of, she drops off her dad at an adult daycare center. Just like in years past, the roles were reversed. They would drop you off at daycare, they'd go to work, and now they would come in and pick you up after work. Now you got to make sure they're not going to wander off. They're going to get their meds when they're supposed to, get fed when they're supposed to. That is becoming big business, and that averages about $70 a day for that.
Can the long-term care insurance, can that compensate the adult children for, acting as caregivers, for instance, for taking time off of work, driving them to and from facilities, things like that? Does that come into play at all?
Yes and no. It depends on the contract, how it's which one you purchase. Some do allow for the cash to be paid directly to the individual, and they can spend it however they wish. Others, it's just a reimbursement. And in that situation, typically, family's not going to get any sort of money. Now, to get back to your point about the work, think about it as an employer. If you've got somebody who's missing an average 7 hours a week if they're taking a parent back and forth, what kind of effect does it have on your business?
Right, loss of income, loss of opportunity. Yeah, absolutely.
But as your business, if it's your key person, and that person is not there to take care of some things. I had one in Plant City a few years ago. It was a gentleman who owned a company, and both of his in-laws needed care. So he was constantly helping his wife go back and forth, trying to get the care needed, and he wasn't there a lot of times. So who was making the decisions? A lot of times it didn't get done.
I was gonna say no one.
That's right. No, it didn't get done. Did business get hurt by that? Absolutely. And he said to me, it's too bad we don't have something that we can do for a business to help out. And the truth of the matter is, there is something you can do.
And then you have the other situation where somebody doesn't have anybody to take care of them, to help them, doesn't have family and friends. You were sharing a story about that during the break.
Yeah. A client I've had for over 20 years, he's a retired attorney now, but he was walking out of his condominium complex one day, and they were doing some construction out in front on the sidewalk, making it more handicap accessible and so forth. And he slipped and fell, but out his right arm to soften the blow, and he shattered his wrist and his forearm, and he's right-handed, and it happened to be his right arm in his hand. So he has no family here locally. The family he has, he doesn't talk to. They're out of state. So for all intents and purposes, he had nobody to take care of him. He ended up going into a facility, utilized the care provided by the policy that I had sold to him, and at that time it was about $4,500 a month rather, for the coverage. And it wound up that that's $13,000. First month he had to pay a deductible for that. So you had about $13,000, $14,000 that was paid out on his behalf so he can get back and resume normal life. The irony of the whole situation is here he moves back into his condominium complex, which is in the high rent district along the bayfront here, and they still have not fixed that construction. And so he sued, and he got a $150,000 settlement from the insurance company for the condominium association, and it's still not fixed. They still got the yellow tape around there. So you think, wait a minute,
what lessons have they learned?
None.
Right.
Absolutely none. So, but and I just had last night, I found out a good friend of mine had a stroke. He's 61 years old, just retired after 30 years working for the city. And his right side is basically, he has very little use, and how much he'll regain, I don't know. But he has no family. His children live out of state. There's nothing here locally to help him. So I don't know how much he's going to get back to the real world to be able to do things, even though he is retired.
We got about a minute left. Does this function sort of like, car insurance, where you have these different options? And I was going to ask you, what do you recommend that you carry in terms of long-term care coverage? What should you have in terms of protection?
Well, as far as what you should have, first of all, you got to look at what are your needs, what is your budget, because if you can't afford it or if you overspend, you're not going to keep it, and then it is money down the sewer. So you got to look at first, say, what can you afford? Do I have caregivers that can help me, a spouse, children? Incidentally, a caregiver who's primary, say like a spouse, on the average, if it's a long-term care situation, as far as at your home, which is about 50% of your care is there, has a 10-year effect on their life expectancy, the caregiver themselves. So, but as far as what they should have, you got to look at, say, what are the averages in and around the area you live, but also what can you afford? And can you qualify?
Well, reach out to John for more information. He's founder and principal of Brass Ring Financial Solutions. We're talking about the impact of long-term care events and planning for them ahead of time. So, John, thank you so much for being in studio today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Good job. And get in touch with him at 813-651-0025. Again, 813-651-0025, or visit brassringfinancialsolutions.com. You've been listening to That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly, where business becomes show business.